Hey, this is Pamela Schneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and we are talking about COVID-19 consumer trends. I have Anne-Marie here from 210 Analytics, who produces a report for the Produce Marketing Association using IRI retail scan data. So this week is our first of 8 non-holiday weeks. This is the first week post July 4th. So what are we seeing with produce numbers?
So I will tell you, Pam, first of all, thanks for having me. You and I, we talked last week and we were a little bit worried about this week because we looked at the trend line every single non-holiday week. Our gains, even though they were still positive, started to come down a little bit. And at some point, our last non-holiday week, the end of June, we actually saw some flatness for fruit with volume down. So I was a little worried about this week. But at the same time, when we looked at what was happening in the marketplace, unfortunately, a lot of states are seeing an increase in COVID cases. And it just really seems to be the virus that is in control of where the food dollar is going relative to retail and food service. And maybe it was that, maybe it was everyday demand still sitting a little higher than we thought it was, but it was a very strong week for produce. Total produce went back into double digits, which we had not seen in a while, 11% over last year. And that was mostly driven by vegetables, which we have been seeing throughout the pandemic. Veg was up 16% over last year, but fruit still very, very good at 6.5% over last year. So a little bit of a surprise, but a good surprise.
Well, and as consumers are, in areas of, COVID hotspots, I guess is what we're calling them, we're seeing some more restaurants shut down. We're seeing some more people going into the stores. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, oranges, 50% year over year. I have to bring it up because we can't have a week go by without some orange numbers. However, we were just kind of digging into the data. You're giving me what you called a 30,000 foot view of the numbers, and everything looks great. But there's also another story going on with the volume and dollar gap for some of these items. So tell me a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah. So when we look really high up and we look at total produce, total fruit, total veg, oftentimes a lot of the trends that are happening below it start to fade out a little bit more. So when you look at total volume versus total dollars, it's fairly close together. It's maybe a point and a half apart. So you would say, okay, there isn't much inflation or deflation happening. We're a great category to put on the front of the circular, with meat still having a lot of inflation. But then you start taking one step down, and there is a huge list that you'll see in the report, and you'll have to rattle them off for me here in a minute. But there's a huge list where volume is double digits ahead of dollars. And on the other side, there's a huge list of items where dollars are tracking double digits ahead of volume. So there's huge inflation in some items and huge deflation in others. And that has everything to do, of course, we're always having a better crop or better production one year versus another. So prices in commodity markets tend to rise up and down, but that is so much more amplified this year because of that food service demand falling away. So yeah, there were like avocados, I believe was one of them, where
41%.
41%, where volume sits higher than dollars. And what were some of the others?
Peppers was 25%, celery was 21%, Brussels sprouts were 14%. We've mentioned some of these before where we're like, wow, the food service demand is really affecting the market for these. Avocados, of course, the last couple of years has had wild swings in prices. And I believe this year we're on a downward swing for the prices, which is why we're going to see that huge number there. Peaches and grapes, though, those are two that are pretty steady this year. And it just kind of speaks to me about the, lowering prices to try to spur demand on some of those.
Agreed. And then on the other side of the equation, there are some items, and they tend to be the items where we've seen very high pandemic demand. I remember potatoes was one of them. So potatoes dollars are tracking double digits ahead of volume.
And this matches what we heard about from, you know, the potato market at the very beginning. That was just something that people were doing the supermarket sweep with, you know, grabbing as many potatoes as they could because they were so reliable, comfort food. And the result of that is clearing out the potato market for the later season stocks. So we do have fresh potatoes, like we have Texas potatoes here in the stores here, but it's those, you know, the stocks that they normally would have later in the season, they don't have those anymore. So potatoes are 10.5% volume minus dollar gains. Cherries were the number one, 27%. And I think that just speaks to the wild swing of the cherry market. We heard from some grower shippers last week that there were, you know, a little bit of a supply issue, had some rain. Rain is bad for cherries, and a lot of people don't know the reason why rain is bad for cherries is because it explodes them. So if they get rain later in the season, it ruins the cherry right before harvest. But the other ones, and this is one that I'm going to actually continue to harp on here, is watercress. We're seeing a 19.5% swing on watercress, and the demand for that speaks to the immunity boost of watercress. And
I couldn't agree more. And you know what? It's a tiny market. I get that. But it is an important point to make. And you mentioned oranges earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same exact point, and we've talked about this many weeks in a row, but I want to make the point again. And that is, you know, a lot of people take supplements and vitamins to boost their immune system, but more and more people are realizing that food and beverages can do a lot for you as well. And they're especially looking for those nutrients within produce. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily know what delivers what.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about oranges, yes, everybody knows that's vitamin C, but there's many others that deliver great nutrients. And talking about that more in store, on the website, a lot more people are doing online shopping. A lot more people are on their computer these days. I will tell you, when I do surveys right now, they're filled within a day versus taking a week. So right now is the time to be on social media, the time to post things on your website, because people are looking for information.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going to throw up a slide here just to while we were talking here to just demonstrate that point. During the PMA's Food Service Delivered, which is going on this week, we had a really fantastic presentation by Data Central talking about immunity and the produce items that are trending because of their immunity boost. And it's not just citrus, although citrus is the top one. Watercress makes that list. There's quite a few more. Greens make that list as well. And there's a lot of items that could be riding this wave and enjoying some of this demand, if only we heard about them more as far as their immunity boost.
Exactly. And I think that's where Center Store frankly outperforms us. We have become a nation of label readers. And if you walk, regardless of what aisle you're in Center Store, endless starbursts just jumping off the packages with fiber claims, vitamin claims, whatever it is, prebiotics, probiotics, everything that people are looking for. And that's absolutely where we as fresh produce can do a better job.
All right, well, we'll continue to watch this over the next couple of weeks. We've got some more non-holiday weeks. And then for me, I think the real question mark is going to be, as a lot of schools start either in person or virtually, how are we going to continue to feed these kids during the day? Are we going to be picking up lunches from school, or are we going to be trying to DIY our own? So I think the snack time is going to become more essential, even though right now I know a lot of parents feel like that they are just, you know, one big feed bag of snack trough or whatever. It's going to continue. And as we get into a more regimented schedule, I think consumers are going to look more for an actual set lunch than just the continued snacking all day that we've, you know, enjoyed in the chaos of summer.
Absolutely. Agreed. We should be seeing some very interesting numbers coming out here very soon.
All right. Thanks, Anna-Marie. Appreciate it. And have fun at the beach or wherever you are.
All right. Thank you.